Hello, New York Giants fans, and welcome to a new edition of the Valentine's Views podcast here on YouTube. Please like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. Tuesday was a busy day for the New York Giants as they were trying to address both the offensive and defensive lines, both of which have been issues so far this season. Giants get credit for trying to do that at this point, but really the problem is that the Giants are chasing answers to problems that really should have been foreseen. These are predictable problems that should have been foreseen and dealt with during the offseason. Pretty much anyone who follows the Giants, I know that we did this at Big Blue View, and we foresaw problems on both the offensive and defensive lines with the depth way back before free agency, before the NFL draft. And here we are in week 8 of the regular season with the Giants having a problem at left tackle because they don't have or did not put in place a better solution, for a backup than what they had last year when Josh Azudu failed in that spot. And they're chasing answers on the defensive line where they traded away Leonard Williams in the middle of last season, lost veteran defensive tackle Sean Robinson in free agency during the offseason, and replaced them only with 5'10", 280-pound undrafted free agent Elijah Chapman, who's a great story and a pretty good pass rusher, but not a guy who can defend the run. And you're looking at a Giants defense that is last in the league now after getting torched by Saquon Barkley and the Philadelphia Eagles for a total of 269 rushing yards on Sunday. Giants are last in the NFL in rushing yards allowed per attempt at 5.4. And the issue that I have, as I said, these are both issues that we could have told you and probably did tell you that the Giants had way back in February. And here we are, the end of October, heading toward week 8 with the Giants being 2-5 and with backup left tackle and not enough depth along the defensive line, both being issues that have contributed to the Giants being 2-5. So predictable issues that should have been foreseen, should have been dealt with months ago, and where the Giants are scrambling now for answers to problems really of their own creation. Let's talk a little bit about the moves that they've made on Tuesday or tried to make. The biggest move that we saw was the Giants working out former Arizona Cardinals first round draft pick DJ Humphries, longtime left tackle for Arizona. I think he's got 98 career starts, all at left tackle, played in Arizona for 9 years. You ask, why is he available in the middle of the 2024 season? Humphries suffered a torn ACL week 11, or not week 11, week 17 of the 2023 season, was let go by the Cardinals during the offseason. I think he's basically 11 months now from surgery, 10 or 11 months now from surgery, beginning to investigate, looking at teams, looking at opportunities. Understanding is that the Giants worked him out on Tuesday, but that there was no immediate signing. I would think that if Humphries is healthy, if he's able to play, if he's able to get on the field and give them snaps within the next couple of weeks, I would think there would be a signing there. I would think that the The only reason I can think of why the Giants wouldn't sign him at this point would be because when they worked him out, he didn't look healthy enough. He didn't look ready to play. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see if maybe later in the week or down the line a little bit if Humphreys and the Giants get together. But the Giants are chasing solutions to the problem of Josh Ezeudu not being the answer as the backup left tackle for Andrew Thomas. This was so predictable. Ezeudu, drafted out of North Carolina in the third round in 2022, is a kid who played every position at North Carolina on the offensive line except center. Often would move, play two or three different positions during games. But Ezeudu was drafted by the Giants to play guard. And for some reason, a year ago, the Giants, with Matt Peart on their roster, guy that was drafted by Dave Gettleman in the third round, I think back in 2020, if I'm not mistaken, guy who is perfectly qualified to be an NFL swing tackle, and incidentally is now with the Denver Broncos and playing very, very well. Go look at his Pro Football Focus grades. Go look at his performance so far this year. He's had to fill in at both left and right tackle so far this year for the Broncos. He's played somewhere in the neighborhood of 130 snaps, has yet to give up a sack, has solid Pro Football Focus grades. Matt Peart is a talented player. Never really got a fair shake from the Giants, but I never understood why the Giants wouldn't give Peart an opportunity a year ago, instead choosing Ezeudu to fill in when Thomas got hurt, despite the fact that Ezeudu didn't practice at tackle all spring and all summer. Anyway, fast forwarding to this year, the Giants looked at their offensive line depth again, let Peart go in free agency. Obviously, the Brian Daboll, Joe Shane regime weren't interested in Matt Peart, but they looked at that situation. They looked at the fact that they had to use Josh Ezeudu at left tackle, that they had to use Justin Pugh straight off the couch at left tackle for a while last year. They looked at that situation and said, Ezeudu will be fine as the backup left tackle. Well, Sunday against the Eagles, giving up 2 sacks in the first 3 drives, having to be protected by extra tight ends, chips, sometimes double and triple teams, on his side. He showed you that he's not fine. And we could have predicted this way back when OTAs started. In fact, I remember discussing, and wondering what the Giants were thinking by using Ezeudu at left tackle, way back when OTAs started. So this was a problem that you saw coming, and the Andrew Thomas injury forced Ezeudu onto the field, and it didn't work well. Now the Giants are scrambling, working out Humphreys, who, if he's healthy, would be a great option, probably the best option they could come up with at this point. They signed 12-year veteran Chris Hubbard, a guy that's played for the Steelers and several other teams. I think played for the Titans last year, was on the San Francisco 49ers practice squad this year. Guy who's played guard in the league, guy who's played right tackle heavily in the league, little bit of experience at left tackle. And maybe he'll be an option in the short term if they decide they want to move on from Ezeudu. Head coach Brian Daboll said earlier this week that the Giants hadn't decided whether Ezeudu would start at left tackle against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Maybe it'll be Hubbard. Maybe it'll be Josh Illuminor at left tackle, and someone from the troika of Hubbard, Ezeudu, and the long forgotten Evan Neal at right tackle. I don't know, but here we are, week 8, left tackle backup issue that should have been dealt with back in March or April. or at the very latest, at the end of the preseason when teams made final cut downs from 90 players to 53, and there were a handful of offensive linemen available on the waiver wire and in free agency. This should have been dealt with before the regular season started, and it wasn't. And predictably, the Giants have an issue here at left tackle after the loss of Andrew Thomas for the remainder of the season with a Frank injury. And frankly, the problem on the defensive side of the ball is one that was predictable as well. The Giants traded Leonard Williams last offseason, or last season at the trade deadline. They lost Ashawn Robinson, another quality run defending veteran defensive tackle in free agency. They did nothing in free agency. They did nothing in the draft to add to their defensive line. We've been saying ever since the offseason that there's not enough depth. There's not enough quality players around Dexter Lawrence, all-world player who he can do a lot by himself, and we're seeing that with 9 sacks and constant destruction, in the middle of the defense, but there's just not enough around him. Raheem Nunez-Roches is a veteran and a decent rotational player, but not a guy that should be playing 60 or 70% of the snaps. DJ Davidson is a 5th round pick who is really just a guy, just a space filler. He's playing because there's nobody else to play. Jordan Riley, 7th round pick a year ago, guy that nobody else really saw as a draftable player, but the Giants saw something in him, size, athleticism. They thought defensive line coach Andre Patterson could work some magic with him. That's not working out. So the Giants now are scrambling for veteran help there. They signed 6-year veteran Armon Watts to their practice squad a week ago. And on Tuesday, they waived edge defender Boogie Basham, a Joe Shane favorite, a guy that Shane was instrumental in drafting in Buffalo, brought to the Giants in exchange for a late round pick. And Basham just, former 2nd round pick who flopped in Buffalo, didn't fare any better with the Giants. And now he's maybe destined for the practice squad, maybe destined for another roster. But the Giants brought Watts up from the practice squad and put him on the 53-man roster. 6-year veteran defensive tackle. Maybe he can help them as a run defender. But again, this is a problem. They're chasing a solution to something that they should have really been looking to address during the off season, and not doing so has come back to bite them. And honestly, for me, this has been one of the biggest issues that I have with the Joe Shane, Brian Daboll regime. I like both guys. I think Joe Shane has the proper philosophy. I think that what he wants to do makes a lot of sense. I think he's put together a really good front office and a really good scouting staff. I think Brian Daboll potentially could be a really good head coach. But what mystifies me so often is some of the roster management. You go back to last year, the cutting Tyree Phillips and then bringing Phillips back middle of the season when they didn't have anybody better. The way that they managed the offensive line all of last year was a complete disaster. This year, going into week 1, counting on Gunnar Olszewski to be their punt returner when Olszewski had been out for a month with a groin injury. Then you go to week 1 without a backup plan, and Olszewski doesn't make it through warmups because of his groin and is now on IR. And you enter week 1 without a competent, experienced punt returner. And then in week 2, Graham Gano's on the injured list with a groin injury. You don't protect yourself by either signing a veteran place kicker and then elevating him on game day to give you an option in case something happens with Gano, or you could have brought up, rookie place kicker Jude McAtomney, who's already on the practice squad, could have elevated him, and protected yourself. And you wind up losing a football game because Gano blows out a hamstring on the first play of the game, which obviously you couldn't predict. But knowing that he wasn't 100%, you could have protected yourself. Giants chose not to, and that blew up on them. So it's some of these roster management decisions that are sort of on the periphery of things. They're not the quarterback decision. They're not the Saquon Barkley decision. They're not, the what player to draft at number 6 overall kind of decision, or which player to spend, your money on in free agency. They're not the biggest decisions, but they're periphery decisions, they're game day decisions. And I get bothered because I think these are smart people, and I don't understand some of the decisions that they make, around the periphery of this roster, and around some of the game day activations or lack of activations, that have come back to bite them. So, those are mystifying things for me. And really, that's just it. These are two problems that the Giants have in week 8 that they shouldn't have in week 8, that should have been addressed a long time ago, because they were very easy to predict. They were very easy to see that these things could very easily come back to haunt the Giants this season, and both have. And really, the Giants have no one but themselves to blame for the fact that halfway through a season, when they're 2-5, when the year has basically already been lost, playoff contention is just is a pipe dream for the 2024 Giants. Really, people are just looking forward to the day that Daniel Jones is no longer the quarterback and the Giants make a move to find a new quarterback of the future. So, yeah, that's really what the rest of the 2024 season is about. Is when will the Giants pull the plug on Jones? But that's really not a discussion that that I wanted to have today. I wanted to talk about the offensive line and the defensive line. So let's keep it there. As I said, these are problems that the Giants shouldn't have at this point. They should have addressed them a long time ago. And the fact that they have issues at both of these spots now is a problem of their own making. Anyway, Giants fans, that's what I've got for you today. A little bit of a little bit of a rant, even though, I don't yell and I don't scream and I don't like to be up on my soapbox very much, but a little bit of a rant today, just based on the fact that I simply don't understand uh, why and how some of these decisions are getting made. Anyway, thank you as always for listening. Please stay safe out there. Take care of each other, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.